has a longer head, has detached earlobes, has ears that are not like sticking out like Paul McCartney's are, has green eyes, and sings and speaks with a different voice, slightly, but, you know, Paul McCartney had more of an accent when he sang than his replacement. But, you know, there's, you know, so much that I could cover, but, you know, I don't have, you know, time. But
well,
basically.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian. And definitely one check there for you, Tina. No, go on. I'm sorry. I accidentally hung up on him there. I didn't mean to. Sometimes my little trigger finger.
I just wanted to make a comment on what you said about the different voices, because what he said about the different singing voices, Dr. Henry M. Truby from the University of Miami actually did a voice analysis back in 1969. He compared Yesterday, Penny Lane, and Hey Jude, and actually came up with 3 different sonograms, which would seem to suggest 3 different voices were singing those songs.
Very curious. Very curious. All right. Well, we've got Bob in Pennsylvania. Bob, what's your question or comments to Tina?
Yes. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well.
How are you?
Good. Well, you know, I grew up when the Beatles were coming out, and you know, I have to say, right now I'm in my 50s, and I have to say the world is a better place for them having been there. And so if it was a communist plot, I can't say that it did very well. And I can see your point that you could use a double for good or for evil, but I would think that in the case of Paul McCartney, it would have to be said that if he was killed in a car crash, then the double did a good job. And I just, you know, I don't see it as a plot. Maybe they just needed somebody who looked a lot like him.
Okay, what do you think about that, Tina?
Well, I've researched, and the accident scenario didn't really make sense to me, but, you know, nobody knows for sure what happened to him, so we're just speculating based on our research. And
is there something to lead you to think that Paul, well, the idea that Paul was against drugs was the most, or, you know, in fact, he was not into this LSD program that they were trying to push. Do you have some evidence towards that, or what led you to that type of thought?
Well, basically reading his opinion about drugs, there was when Dick Lester said that he refused to try heroin, that he would usually only take 1 Prelude in Hamburg, and he did smoke marijuana, but, you know, that's not that big of a deal. So pushing a drug like LSD just seems...
Well, can I comment?
Yes, please.
Sure.
It just seems to me, in spite of the fact that, you know, they came out with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and obviously that says LSD, but they went on to be a very strong... I mean, you think of John and Yoko fighting against the Vietnam War, so, you know, you could say that, yeah, they had their bad points, but at the same time they continued and still were for peace and love. So, I mean, I'm just saying that it didn't seem to make all that much of a difference.
Well, their agenda is very... under the current, you know, and so it's not something that we'd see straight off, and especially now in our modern era. But of course, you grew up in this era of seeing the transformation of the kids, you know, against their parents and that idea. But if we look at this whole spectrum, we find that I found that there are often these type of witchy women that are behind these people. And you brought up John and Yoko. And here was John. He was coming out with a whole new album ready to bring this positive message to the world. And it seems that Yoko held him up in a hotel room for about 6 months, injecting him with heroin until he had rewritten, or she had rewritten, the entire album to speak out on a different level.
Well, since you brought up Yoko, if you look into her family background, she's actually from a very prominent family in Japan. Her father was a descendant of the Emperor of Japan. She went to a school that was for Japanese aristocrats. So she looks to me like she could definitely be Illuminati.
She's on my book.
More going on.
Definitely has the witchy woman.
Thank you, please. There's something more going on with her.
Well, thank you, Bob.
But I don't I don't want people to think that I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I'm not trying to play in any way. I love the Beatles. I think they were great. I'm not trying to make them look bad or anything. It's just the way the entertainment industry works, the way the powers that be work. They manipulate and use people.
Absolutely. We're going to pick that thought up on the other side, Tina. We'll definitely get into good works used for evil. You're listening to the Free Zone, and we got a lot of calls. Oh, there's all kinds of goodness leading us to evil. It's so insidious and so just invisible, really. It's hard for us to detect it until it's done, until we already see the results of what has happened. Now let's just consider the Vietnam War as masses came together and started to stand against this illegal war. They became a unified force. So what happened? We have Secret Service agencies, CIA, the alphabet letters, all of them coming in and starting what seemed to be positive movements. So they came in and everybody's unified against the war. And now they say, well, what about the women? You should have some rights. You should be able to do what you want to do. You should be able to vote. And what about the blacks? You should have your rights. Let's get the Black Panthers going. Let's get the Women's Lib movement. Let's get the Gay Liberation Front going. And what happened was this unified front that was against this war activity, this front that could have possibly changed the world, was separated and dispersed into other groups, other movements that they, of course, felt were important as well. But this was simply a tactic to separate this one force where everyone had their agenda in mind. And this is how they can use good for evil. Would you agree with that, Tina?
Yes, I would. And, of course, using the entertainment industry, if you look at the ties in Hollywood, you see a lot of military and intelligence and Illuminati ties to rock stars. For example, Jim Morrison, his father was the admiral at the Gulf of Tonkin fake attack. Now, when I read that, I was pretty surprised. So, and other stars too. David
It almost
Cosby,
seems like you have to be a Satanist to be a star. What do you think about all these celebs that die at 27? Did you see that's in the same vein as they?
Yeah, well, something that was very interesting that I came across was that Mama Cass and Keith Moon died in the exact same room in a London apartment.
Very curious. I'll tell you, I found Templar symbolism all over the hotel where Anna Nicole died.
Well, there is the Illuminati, and they are Luciferian, and they have their stamp. You see Aleister Crowley. You see the Beatles in the Yellow Submarine. There's a Yellow Submarine graphic. Sorry, that has them giving Paul McCartney has the OK symbol, which is actually 666, and then John Lennon is giving the horns. I mean, it looks like hook'em horns, right? But it's not. It's the satanic hand sign that everybody knows. So, Illuminati ties in the entertainment industry, sure.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And it was shown that by many that researched the mind control, MK Ultra, that these people tend to break their programming as they go towards 30. And so this could be a very likely reason why these people are either offed or off themselves as they start to come to awareness of what they are being used for. Well, Tina, the phones are